You put me on this platform to tell the truth. Speak to me when I be speaking to the youth.
Yo, welcome to the Question Mindset Podcast, home for building a 6, 7, 8 multi-figure mindset through the power of a question. Yo, today I have an amazing person today. This guy is a visionary. We had some amazing conversations, impactful conversations within the past couple of days. And even today, I'm learning some new things about them. And yo, he has some gems he wants to drop. We're going to get into his journey. We're going to get into what made him the man that he is today and what is his vision for the future. So, Manny, how you doing today? How's everything?
I'm good, man. Appreciate it. I'm doing good. No complaints. Like I was saying, was able to get a lot of things done today, so I'm excited. Now I'm about to knock off this on the list, the podcast. Told Olivia it's Super Bowl weekend, but I'm here and I'm excited because you know what? At the end of the day, it's funny because I can say that as an excuse to like not be productive as far as like, oh, it's the Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah.
But like when you make things work, there's no excuse, right? A lot of times we're like, oh, we don't have time. We make time. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of why, it's a no-brainer to come here. Just made the time.
And I like that you said that. We make time. We make time for things that matter. And lately in this journey in life, like I'm young, I'm chasing that next step of growth. I've seen the trend that when I'm not into something, I don't make time for it.
True.
But I kind of put myself in this uncomfortable state where it's like I want to push in that thing, even though I'm not in it no more, and I have to build that habit. If I'm not in it, it has to be for a valid reason, of course, and I have to detach myself right then and there.
Right.
So today, I don't want to get into that negative or that basic stick, or people say, "Hey, what do you do?" Things like that. I want to get into your past. Like, you're a successful individual right now. We talked about a lot of opportunities that you're going to get into that I want to talk about a little bit if you're willing.
Yeah, of course.
But what put you on this journey that you're in right now as far as growth, chasing the next step in life, changing your surroundings, changing your environment? What put you on this journey that you're in right now? Like, how was your childhood coming up?
Okay, so that's good. So I appreciate you for having me. Can't even start really without saying that. Thanks for having me on. Pretty excited to get on this and talk to you. So the journey. So I mean, I'll keep it, pretty like concise and like different patterns as far as what I've done thus far. But my childhood was pretty cool. I was born in New York, raised here in South Florida.
Really?
Yeah, I was raised here locally, Broward. So Broward, raised in Broward. Grew up in Lauderdale Lakes. A lot of people don't know that, so it's funny I'm saying that on camera. But I actually went to school in Cold Springs. So long story short. But I loved it. It's pretty much like with my parents being Haitian. One thing I've always learned, I always tell people now, is like always seeing them wake up every morning, day in and day out. You probably can attest to this, is where they're getting up every day and no excuses to not show up to work. I mean, I saw them every day, like day in and day out, wake up every morning to go to work, and just showing that commitment and loyalty, the loyalty to where they work. I saw them stay in consistent positions. The only thing I did see that kind of motivated me once I was older was saying that I don't want to necessarily settle where I'm at and always be in a state of progression, because I feel like if you're not growing, you're dying, right? Yeah. I always tell people, if you're not growing, you're dying. So my mom, I saw her work in a company, give her all her loyalty to this company, and, just seeing her give everything. And there was times now when she's older where she's not getting the things that she deserves, even though she's been there in law for so long. So I appreciate and commend her loyalty. But I always tested her and said, you got to go for more. She actually tried getting a degree. I remember helping her trying to get the degree. We're sitting down doing homework together.
And it's always like that. Yeah, there was Haitian parents. I can attest to it. When I was younger, I was helping them with job applications, and I don't even know what a job was.
Right.
So
100%. So it's like
I was in the same boat.
Correct. So like when it comes, and I always tell people, like, one thing about Haitians, man, like they're always motivated. You're gonna find them in every opportunity. I feel like everywhere you go, whether it's restaurant, retail, commercial, business, whatever it is, you're gonna find a Haitian there for some odd reason, because we just value opportunity and we're always gonna look for the next best opportunity. So for me growing up, I saw a lot of that, and most importantly, like from a faith perspective, I was actually raised in the church, so that's another thing. So I was always around faith, which I think was truly instrumental for my success today. And honestly, when I say success, I really mean like the journey that I'm on now, because I feel like success isn't necessarily tied to what I gain as far as results, but necessarily just like looking back and being proud of what I've done and where I'm at and where I'm going.
I like that you said that. You said success is not always based off of what you gain, but what you learn. But another thing, and I want to get into Haitian parents and your upbringing, because what I've learned when I was younger and seeing how my parents were with just learning how to keeping the mentality of survival because of the country that they came from.
Right.
They adopted that same mentality here, and they kind of share a lot of bad habits as far as looking at the nickels, dimes, and pennies. And it's okay to do that, but if you're always in a mindset of survival, you're not going to learn how to live.
Right.
And living is understanding the journey, learning the lessons,
Right.
taking those steps that's risky, where sometimes
Correct.
you might fall, sometimes you might exceed and excel, but you got to take that chance. You got to take that chance on living.
Correct.
So how was that for you growing up? Did you kind of see the same things, or?
So I could definitely say we were probably more of a survival stance. So I think in life there's a good and a bad. You take it with everything, right?
Yeah.
So I did see more survival. I remember the times where obviously we came short on certain bills and all this kind of stuff. But the perseverance aspect is where I think the benefit came from that experience. Because seeing my parents constantly, no matter what, there's going to be food on the table. We're going to have a roof over our head. We're going to find a way, It wasn't to the best enjoyment of what we wanted, but they made means happen, And like you mentioned, which I love that now because I talk about it now. Like, as you know, I'm a father now.
Congratulations again, man. He's going to be
walking
soon.
He'll be walking soon. But it's so funny with parenting now. It's not about just putting a roof over your head. It's not about just putting food on the table because that's just survival. That's just standard live. I mean, animals do it. That's just like the standard for animals, right? So I feel like you mentioned, it's deeper than just giving them a means to an end. It's deeper than just making sure that their food on the table. Now, to all the parents that are doing that, by all means, respect to you, power to you, because it's not easy at the end of the day. Today's market right now, the economy, is not easy. But what I would care more about, which is what I'm focused on now, is where am I meeting my child emotionally? Where am I meeting my child from a mental standpoint? Am I setting the proper examples? Because at the end of the day, they're not going to do what I say. They're going to do what I do.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, so seeing my parents, I learned how to persevere. I learned how to make ways, right? A lot of times when I was working in finance, they used to call me Mr. FIO, Mr. Figure It Out.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, I was never the guy to look for just creating problems. Like if there's a problem, that's one thing, but we're going to talk about the solution. We're going to talk about finding the results.
And that's tough. And that's tough in our community because I've seen a lot of people hold a lot of pride in avoiding those conversations.
Right.
So you had a lot of good examples growing up. What was your biggest struggle, or what was your mindset like when you was younger? Like, did you always see yourself as a business owner? Did you ever see yourself becoming a business owner? Did you see yourself working under a company like your mother and other relatives in your family?
Yeah. So growing up the way I grew up, I knew for certain I was never going to settle because
I like that.
And I'm not gonna try to spend more than a minute talking about how much we struggle because I don't think there's power. I think there's wisdom there. I don't think there's power there. I truly believed from a very young age that I was never gonna put myself in a position where I was gonna fight. Wasn't gonna fight for more. Wasn't gonna fight for better. Funny enough, last night I was fixing up the back room at my house. And I had this little plate that I carry with me when I went to New York because I used to go to New York all the time. My mom's whole side of the family still lives up there, and we were in the city. We're in Manhattan, and we were buying like little gifts when we come back home. And I bought a little plate that says "Boss" with the New York license plate, right?
That's crazy.
And it's so funny because when you asked me that question, I bought it because that's just how I thought of myself. That's where I saw myself. And I realized, but boss doesn't necessarily isn't just a title I cared about. It just was the system and the way that was going to lead me to the lifestyle I wanted to live. Because a lot of times I think a lot of people are chasing titles, which at that, I'm not going to deny. I tried to chase titles because in my mind, titles mean money,
Yeah, doctor, lawyer, teacher, all these things. Yeah.
Correct.
Because they put you in a certain status. And I've learned that now seeing my older brother and seeing myself because I was going to be a doctor. I was going to be a physical therapist.
Right.
I was going to school for physical therapy.
That's the Haitian 101. Haitian 101.
I was a track star. I went to school in Illinois.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I went to school in Illinois. I ran track up there in the code. It was a love-and-hate relationship with that.
Yeah.
But when...
You were a sprinter or long distance?
I was a long distance, but my main event was pole vault.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was pole vault. So imagine how my family felt when, of course there was drama up there with the coach and them taking money from me.
Of course.
Imagine how they thought when I told them, hey, I'm dropping out, I'm coming back, I'm looking to find myself. I'm not looking to go back to school right now. Got to figure out a couple of things as far as who I am because I just now started to find myself because I I was the only one out of my brothers that ever moved out ever.
Wow.
So it put me in a self-discovery mode. So when I came back, I was never home. I was always working, worked 2 jobs. Was sleeping in my car in between both jobs because I was still lost, but I didn't like that. I want to work this hard, 2 jobs. I didn't want to settle for just that, kind of like what you did. I want to settle for so much more than that.
Right.
And they didn't like that. They didn't like that. I stopped chasing for that title. I wanted to chase towards more freedom. And not all the time that title has that freedom. Correct.
Yeah. Exactly. And you know what's so good? I'm going to talk about that because my backstory when I left. So I'm actually an engineering major. So a lot of people don't know that about me. That's what I was studying in college.
Engineering?
Correct.
Is there like different niches with engineering?
Electrical engineering, to be specific.
Wow.
Yeah. So I actually went to Atlantic Technical High School. So that's where I actually became an electrician. So I got my degree to be an electrician there. So it's pretty cool. I like the tech trade schools because you can learn, obviously, get everything you need from high school, but also pick up a trade that you could carry outside of high school. So I have friends right now that out of high school are making money as a pharmacist, nurse, all that kind of cool
and
stuff.
It's still good money. We're not knocking those titles now, but it's like everybody has to find their niche within themselves. You was finding yourself, and that's one of the main things that I teach on the fast track course that I have, helping people understand who they are within themselves, and they tackle on whatever business, whatever opportunity, whatever it is within that niche, and then just grow and then make the impact that they see themselves making.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And to go back to that point with the engineering, so to where you're saying, like, obviously you left school, your mom was upset. So went to school for that, finished my 2 years for my associates. Then I came across an opportunity to work in the finance, and I pretty much fell in love with it. It opened me to the idea of business and opened me to the money of numbers because I love numbers, obviously being in engineering. And I realized funny story, everybody I tell this to, because as an engineer, math is a standard. Like, you can't become an engineer without getting over math. Yeah. And I'm great with math. I'm great with numbers. But once you get into like the, what's the word? The equations and all the extra verbiage, it just becomes like
nonsense.
Correct. It becomes nonsense. So I was willing to do it because I knocked out all of my prerequisites when it came to engineering. But when it came to math, I wanted no parts.
Yeah.
Correct. Because and at that point, I already believed in technology, and technology had all the answers that I didn't have to worry about all that math.
Yeah, you had the calculator, you had the phone, you had Siri to get as complex as it needed to be. Yeah.
Correct. So then when I sat down and, I had a mentor, he spoke to me, and that's when I was like, you know what? I'm making my decision. I'm leaving college, and I'm going to go full-fledged into business for myself. And he told me, he said, back in the day, everybody owned their profession. They owned their titles. You got people with names like blacksmith as a last name. You got people with name as carpenter because whatever your profession was, that was your name. That was your family lineage, right? Wow. But eventually the industrial age came in and it actually shifted the entire marketplace when it came to being a business owner. Yeah. Because they needed employees for these factories. So they were giving people guaranteed paychecks, guaranteed work, because obviously as a business owner, can you guarantee your next paycheck?
Not at all.
No.
Everything's kind of in the wind with, like, people think when you become a business owner, it gets easier. Nah, it gets harder.
It gets a lot harder.
It's harder. Well, and then there's a difference between self-employed and being a business owner. Right. Most of the time, people think those things are the best things, when if you just want to check, being a W-2 employee is by far the easiest thing, because you can BS your way through your shift and still get paid. Right. But if you're self-employed, or if you're self-employed, you're going to get $0. Correct. And if you're a business owner, your business won't grow and your business will be on a decline. Exactly. So they need to understand that
100%. And then that is where, once he explained that to me, I said, he says, see, we gotta get back what we gave away.
What do you mean by that?
Which is the ownership. Because all these people transition from being business owners to now working in this industrial age and working for these large corporations. Yeah. And they gave up their freedom, their choice to do whatever. Right. And once I realized that, he says, are we going to sell the farm away? Or are we going to earn back our farm? Are we going to earn back our keep? And that's when my mindset shifted, because I realized, you know what? I do love being an engineer when it came to the work that was being done. Yeah. But I didn't love the idea of being stuck behind a desk doing things that I wasn't going to love doing forever. Living up to quotas, living up to these terms, things that they require me to do.
And if I'm being honest, man, I see myself being transparent. I see myself falling into the same boat. Like, I'm a realtor. They rave about behind the phones, behind the computer, make the calls, do this, but I want so much more beyond that. And
Right.
I see a lot of larger opportunities within real estate that can kind of take me to that next level and fund what I need to, but it's gonna take the work. But now I
Correct.
know what the work is gonna take.
Correct.
Now I know what it looks like to put in the work, and I have the knowledge to tackle on whatever niche within real estate that I want to tackle on and take it to the next level. And that's kind of where I am right now. And I see myself making that big transition.
I see it.
I'm not gonna lie.
Even when you were at the KW plant office.
Yeah, plantation.
When I walked in, knocking out calls.
Yeah.
Middle of the day.
But
I know how many agents that go outside and regular day and they're not doing the work that's really required, because it's easy to hide in the self-employed world. That's why a lot of business owners and self-employed people don't have true success, because if you hide from the work, that's fine. You can hide, but the results, you can't be upset when they're not coming in. And I think that's where like that back and forth of delusionment, I guess you could call it, where you want the results, but you're not doing the work. So you're here Front Street making the calls middle of the afternoon, because why? You know what now is required. So like for me, that's why I had to shift my mindset. Because when I left going to college and I went full-fledged into business, I found myself in that journey, just like you're mentioning right now.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, when you start your business, you start to see all the flaws that you had growing up that you never addressed.
Yo, and that's, if I'm being honest, based on what you said, that's why I think the fact that I became a realtor.
Yeah.
Because it caused me to switch my mindset as far as wanting to learn more, wanting to read more, wanting to create a schedule, wanting to create certain disciplines, wanting to let go of bad habits. That's what I love about being a realtor, and what it opened up the door as far as creating so much room, or allowing me to walk through that door that had so much more room that I never knew that I had from within. So now that I'm in a state where I'm not in it being a realtor, and I'm in that room, it's like, all right, there's these other things that, all right, I can tackle it on. I'm not really quitting real estate, but I'm in real estate, and I'm compounding my efforts for my family to take us to the next level, man.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's a great feeling, tough feeling. Because once you look at yourself in the mirror, that's when you start to realize, okay, I do want this, but like you mentioned earlier, what's the price that I need to pay to get there? And I remember I was maybe like 19 years old, and I was sitting in our main office late night, because I'm, like I said, putting in the hours. And I was just like not getting the results that I wanted. Saw people flying past me when it came to numbers and success. And I remember just getting so like pissed off at myself, because I'm not where I want to be. You know what I mean? I remember I gave up going to college, left my full-time job. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just being in that state of mind where I'm like, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about this? brink of tears. And I remember laying down on my back in that office, sitting there thinking to myself, and I just, for some reason, I just had this motivation to just listen to, at that time, E.T., Eric Thomas. Yeah. One of my favorites at that time. Eric Thomas is amazing. And he's still great. He has a lot of great messages. And he has a famous one that he says, you gotta want to have success just as bad as you want to breathe. And be obsessed with it. You got to be obsessed with it. But I'm gonna tackle that conversation later. So I started to really commit to really denying myself when it came to not wanting to do the work that was required, because I would love to create excuses or justify. Because remember, I told you, you're carrying a lot of these bad habits that you had as a child or as a young adult into your opportunity to become an entrepreneur. And until I faced those things, I was never seeing results. So one of my biggest things that somebody told me straight up to my face was, hey, you're too cool. And I'm thinking to myself, oh man, I was like, mind you, I've been here maybe like 6 months, and a guy that's been doing this for a while comes up to me and says, you're too cool. And I was like, man, what are you talking about? And I'm not going around thinking, how do I be cool? How do I be cool? How do I be cool? But, growing up, the culture, it's all about being looking apart, being a cool kid. You know what I mean? Making sure that you're not the cool kid, and that it goes to show, like, we care more about looking the part than actually doing it. And I think that's where my struggle was in the beginning. Is I was much more concerned about how to look the part than to actually walk the walk. Wow. And that's where, once I started to be aware of that, and what did that look like? It looked like going against the status quo. Because
and so what was the status quo for you at that time?
so the status quo for me, meaning like what I wanted to look like versus what it looked like actually walking the walk. So what I wanted it to look like was being able to just walk in whenever I want, say that I'm my own boss. This is me on social media. This is me looking the part.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? So on the surf, and I'm going to be real, because at the end of the day, if I'm going to put something out there, I want to be as authentic as possible, because this has been a journey. You know what I mean? So on social media, I could look the part. That wasn't the hard part. It was actually making the calls, reading the books.
Reading the books. That's the biggest one. And most of the time you get caught in the work and making the calls that you forget that second step.
Right.
Like, and that's where I was at right now. Where I'm at right now, being transparent. I'm caught up making the calls, doing this, but
self-development.
I was short on self-development.
What are we doing to develop? Remember, I told you in the beginning, if you're not growing, you're dying. Think about it. Our phones right now, right? See, if we don't update these phones, how well do they operate in today's time?
It gets slower.
If it doesn't update enough, eventually it's what? Obsolete. It's useless.
It's obsolete, yeah.
Right. Think about all of our older phones. They can't even carry the updates that these current phones have today.
Yeah.
So when I talk to people about personal development, I ask them that very simple question. What have you done in the last year to update yourself?
Like right now, I made it a plan to read at least one book a month, but now that I'm looking at it and with how much time and the shift that I'm making, it has to be $4 minimum.
That's a solid goal.
$4 minimum.
Solid goal.
$4 minimum.
I'm at a place right now where, because I'm trying to consolidate my work life and personal life balance, you know, I've even found solutions, because at the end of the day, like I said earlier before we started, like you make time. So there's an app right now that's out called Headway. Not even promoted. It's not even some kind of partnership, nothing like that.
And you learned about the books. So,
correct. So it shortens a learning period for the books. If you got to do that, do that. If you got to do the audiobooks in the car. So one of the things that I did in the beginning was turn my car into a classroom. I'm a music freak. I love music. I love all different type of music. And my car, pretty much, you can count on me in the DJ. You know, when you pass the aux, and you can count on somebody to not skip. If they're good, if they're good on the aux,
that's me too.
They won't skip. You don't skip.
That's me too.
That was me on the aux. So I love music. But one of the things my mentor told me is like, you have to turn your car into a classroom.
Yeah.
Because those drives in between appointments, that's the perfect opportunity. If you're not making phone calls, the perfect opportunity to keep updating the system. What are you adding to yourself? Because if you're not updating yourself, like I said earlier, you're operating on old information in a new time.
Yes, and sometimes even doing that might be hard for some people. And that's where you have to kind of develop the ability to be conscious within your subconscious.
Right.
Because when you get in a car, it's second nature. You've done it so much times. If you've been driving for a while, you plug in your car, open your playlist, you just click play.
Right.
And you have to build that habit to, all right, pick my book, press play, and pay attention while you're driving and not zoning out.
Correct.
Because when you listen to music, you zone out, and then next thing you know, oh damn, I'm home.
Right.
It's like that. It's like that. So
right.
you have to be more intentional with your activities and with what you're doing, because I noticed that within myself that even with learning, I want to create more opportunities for me to grow and update myself a little more. And one of those times is when I'm eating. I want to work on reading a book, listening to an audiobook while I'm reading, because I've grown the bad habit of opening up Instagram, opening up YouTube, and just watching entertainment while I'm eating.
Correct.
And I noticed the bad habits that I had in other things. And one of the things that helped me be more conscious within my subconscious is I use a sheet of paper for the day. On the left side, I put the timestamps from 12 a.m. to 11 p.m. No, this is not time block.
Time block. Oh, wow.
This is time tracking.
Time tracking.
So what it is, because I already time blocked before. I already know what I need to do, and that's the right side of the column.
Nice.
This is what I should be doing during that hour, during these 30 minutes. It's not too analytical, because I left room for some last minute changes. And the left side is what I actually did. So that way, during the day, if I saw the trend that, hey, at night I'm supposed to be in bed by 10:30, and people laugh at me because I have an alarm for bedtime.
Right.
and they laugh at me.
Rigid. Sticking to a strong schedule.
Schedule. And then I learned, but I always had the bad habit of staying up when I was younger. Even though I had school time, I stayed up
all-nighters,
watching YouTube,
vamping.
Yes, playing games, doing all that stuff. Even though I left video games and other stuff, but I noticed that I'm still struggling with that bad habit, and I'm getting over it, because that timestamp showed, hey, I'm supposed to be sleeping, or I'm supposed to be already in bed by 12 a.m. why the hell do I see I'm watching my show at 12 a.m.?
Right.
And then it's like I'm seeing the trend as far as what I'm doing. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm watching my show in the middle of this day. I'm watching my show in this moment when I'm supposed to be studying,
Right.
supposed to be reading a book,
Right.
supposed to be making calls, supposed to be doing role play, other things to build my business. And then that made me more conscious of my activity. So now when I get in the car, I'm like, wait, put on my audiobook. I had that second thought about it because now with these timestamps, I take it a step forward by having an accountability partner. So I send that to that next person, and they see like, yo, what the hell is this? You're watching a movie when you're supposed to be sleeping, and I don't want to have that bad look on me. So that second thought helps me fix myself because I don't want to look bad in that person.
And that's you truly raising your consciousness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's because think about how people aren't even aware, right? Because our subconscious mind is always operating, right? Like everybody tells you, but what are you feeding the subconscious mind? You've made a conscious decision that you're going to be disciplined. So now you're consciously making the efforts to literally make those changes.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is discipline, which I think goes back to what we talked about earlier as far as how do we correct all the bad habits, the bad characteristics that we carried from young childhood to young adulthood, right? And now we're in our entrepreneurship career, and these habits are what's going to determine us and decide what our future looks like. I think a lot of times we think we just like fate is just going to happen where it's going to happen, which obviously there's a piece to fate that we can't deny.
Of course.
And in my belief, my fate lies in my creator. So I'll throw that out there.
Amen. Same way.
But at the same time, our habits determine our future.
Yeah, because faith without works is dead.
Correct.
So if you think things can just be gifted to you based off your talent, based off of your energy, and to some degree, yeah. But that person who puts in the work, puts in the consistency, they're going to surpass whatever talent, whatever that is.
Right.
So you're going to look back like, hey, how are you getting more? Because they put in the work.
Right. And I want it because in the beginning I told you I was going to talk a lot about the successful path of it. And to bring this story up to speed to where we're at right now, long story short, my work-life balance actually flipped. So I went from having no success within finance to eventually having a lot of success because, like I said, I made the decision to get better, improve. Yeah. One of my favorite books that I read is Outwitting the Devil.
Outwitting the Devil. Wow.
Correct.
What is that book about?
Correct. So Outwitting the Devil, in long story short, is just making us aware of how we were set up to lose from the beginning. I remember reading some of the pages in that book and actually shedding a tear because I started to see how many traps are out there for us to fail as people. So I'm going to step into that a little bit because it goes back to our faith in general and how fragile it is if we're not aware of how the enemy is operating. Yeah. Because the enemy has no power over us unless we allow the power to operate.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
What I realized reading that book was realizing how in the church we're even set to fail, how the enemy can operate in the church because our message isn't really truly relying on the power of God, but necessarily on the fear of the devil.
Say that again.
How the enemy is attacking the church by us not worrying about the power of God and what power he's allowed in us and to really focus on the fear of the devil, really, and the fear of hell.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy.
How us making poor health decisions that we think are easy don't realize that when they compound over a daily time will actually affect us.
Yeah.
Same thing with the mental aspect in the schools where teachers don't speak life into you and they actually speak death and not knowing, once again, your power in God and what he already spoke over you.
Well, I can attest to one of the many things you said because I got that from my teachers and even my parents and it caused me to have a stutter. But it wasn't to the point where I changed my environment where I started to see who I was, and it's not the labels that they going back to the labels, not the labels that they tried to put on me, or as far as the labels, as far as what I should be.
Right.
I need to understand who I am, break out of that, and then now I'm gonna start finding that success and putting in the work because now I'm into it. Now I want to learn. Now I want to understand. Now I find my niches. Now I find everything that I find passion and love for.
Right.
Kind of like why I created this whole podcast.
Right. No, there's no denying it. And I told you that's why I came here because I see that light in you when it comes to wanting to do this work.
Yeah, man.
I don't see double intentions. I see one intention. So
that fills me with love right now.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie,
absolutely,
man.
absolutely.
I love that, man.
it's funny because when I look back in retrospect, there's so much that I could take apart from it. And like I told you, the work-life balance started to take a shift for the worse because I started to have the proper habits. And this is going to kind of segue to what I want to end really our conversation with when it's all said and done, is my personal life started to take a toll from the sake of my work life.
Like you see, you tap too much into your business.
Correct.
Got you.
See, success is inevitable when you allow success to be defined however you want it to be defined.
Say that again. Success
is inevitable as long as you allow it to be defined what you believe it should be defined. So a lot of people, I don't know if that did it land? It hit. Okay,
because
cool.
If you define it at a certain level, then it's inevitable that you're going to reach there, and you know what work to put in to get there. And if you're there, if you don't set it at a higher step, then you're kind of just going to stay stagnant in that same level of success.
Right.
That's why when you reach your goal, it's the next goal.
Right.
It's kind of like, it's not like a rat race, but you're kind of building yourself, because it's more of like steps on personal development and finding your potential, and you can never find your potential if you keep searching deeper.
Right. And there you got exactly. You hit right where I was going. It's how deep is the success? So for me, success at that time was making money, right? Having freedom. So I was able to travel. I've traveled to all different places. Don't care to brag. But that was the lifestyle that I wanted. But once again, at what cost? And that's what I disregarded when I was on this chase of success. Is what was I willing to sacrifice to get there? So I started to pick up poor eating habits, started to miss family events, wasn't a part of church.
Yeah.
I remember as soon as I turned like 19, I was like, you know what? This church thing is cool and all, but for right now, I'm going to focus on
business.
Right. Because remember, my heart was leaving my current situation as a child where we struggled on things that I didn't care for. So for me, money's a solution. Yeah. Like, obviously, church is great, but money was a solution. And I remember going to see my parents go to church every week. Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, man, just to be transparent, that's where I'm at right now. Like, I'm a minister at my church. I serve. I'm on a praise and worship team. And with this whole, me being a realtor, getting caught up in the work, not even worrying about reading books, like, my prayer life wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be.
Right.
Me working on practicing praising and practicing how to minister praise to the people, to get them to understand God and everything, that was diminished, and I didn't take consideration that personal aspect of it, and I almost would have quitted the team. Just for the sake of putting in more work, but it's like I wasn't in it anymore. Why would I quit this just to do something that I'm not into? But then realize the other stuff that can make that switch towards can open up the room to do everything. It's like, okay, I should have never left this in the beginning, because I left that at the beginning because of a distraction. Now when I see myself taking that full circle, it's like, okay, this is what I need. This is what I should have been doing for the first time, but I'm grateful for the lessons that I learned and what I've already been through. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. I'm telling you, that awareness, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
Because the one thing, biblically speaking, like,
my God,
he'll leave the 99 for that one.
Yeah.
So, like, he saw you leave that whole journey and still you found a way back. I think a lot of people aren't even aware when God is reaching out, still trying to go after you. You know what I mean? And that, like, for me, was my eye-opening, because that's one of my favorite songs, is that, Reckless Love.
Reckless Love, about really?
Yeah, Reckless Love, where he talks about leaving the 99 to find that one as a shepherd.
So okay. Reckless Love. Gotcha.
So there's 99 sheep and one strays away, and he still is willing to go no matter the depths, how far he has to go.
I know that song.
Correct. Yeah. So like that song breaks me down, because it's like, after all those opportunities to neglect, because look at it from a perspective of a father and a child, right? Now I'm a father now, so like I'm always seeing things now in this shift now, which is, if you're fortunate to see it, God bless you. I wish you could see it.
If I'm being honest, man, I'm doing everything for my family, like for my wife and my kids that I don't have. So I know how you feel.
I was there, trust me, and that's why I said, if you keep your mind there, God will bless you. And to think, if I had my son now, where I love on this kid like nobody's business.
I love that, man.
And
I love
if for whatever reason he just starts to choose to just turn his back to me and just go to Japan, that would break me,
bro. But would part of you like accept it and understand it because that's part of his journey, or like talk
to what obviously to what reasoning, right? So I'm giving this analogy in the sense of my father and myself. God looking with me, my relationship with God, Because when I said my work-life balance switched, is what I meant. I turned my back to everything.
Dang.
And it was all, and it's so funny. I tell people the story now, which is why I say it with so much like humility, is I was chasing this success, chasing these goals, chasing this wealth for the sole sake of, like you mentioned earlier, to put my family in a better position, to put everybody in a better position.
Yeah.
Like that, my heart was there. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah.
But I started to shift that slowly because, once again, what defines your success?
Mm-hmm.
Because what for me was success at that time was being able to travel, make more money, do things on my terms. And yes, I want to put my family in a better position, but I started to sacrifice my health, my relationship with God, my family life. And it all became a cost to me that I wasn't even acknowledging.
So you found that new type of success, all of those things that you were lacking, and you kind of make that shift and making everything better. I like that.
That's where we're at right now.
And I saw that in myself now because my success is doing those same things that you mentioned for your family, be able to be that provider for them, but also taking care of myself and taking care of other people. But how can I take care of other people if I don't take that time to spend with them,
right,
with my family?
Right.
Like even now I was missing the birthday parties. I would only come to a few here and there, and sometimes it'll break me, and it's like, dang, what am I doing? Like, and at the end of the day, my results weren't showing. So
Right.
I was in that same boat. I was like, you know what? Let me make a switch. My success is now at this new level, and I see it in this new niche that I'm getting into.
Right.
So I love it.
Absolutely. And it's so funny. And when you look back, though, it all was necessary. I think that's the beauty of God and why he does the things that he does. You know, like the verse says, all things work together for good. Romans 8, one of my favorite verses. And all things work together. So like all of that I experienced, even though it came at a cost, the wisdom that I gained, the understanding that I have now is propelled me to where I'm at right now. Now the difference is I'm conscious of those things that I was sacrificing so that I don't sacrifice them anymore. Because I was convinced that was the only way to be successful at that time.
But it's not.
It's not.
It's not. It's not. Once you find the love and spending time with your family, being able to be present in those moments to teach them, like my relationship with my brother was declining because I was so tapped into my business. I didn't understand what he was going through. But when I made that intentional decision to kind of take a step back and, you know, push in and out, because people think balancing is having everything at the same level.
No,
it's not.
It's
balancing is one is higher. You have to have one higher than the other,
right?
And you have to understand the cost that has,
right?
But sometimes you gotta have to make that switch and understand the cost on that side of the spectrum.
That's it.
That's the big thing.
Well said. And that was my biggest like eye opener when I started to realize that what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Because it's so funny. You know, we had and the thing about the toxic positivity and the success that I was just talking about is how much it negates like principles that were set forth by the Bible, by God. Because there's a lot of new age like verbiage now that makes people like justify doing the wrong when it comes to not being there for your family. And can I be transparent? Like you just mentioned, I had people that were close to me that were battling suicide, and I had no idea. While I was on this chase, I was living my best life, but the people that were closest to me were battling suicide.
Wow.
And when I found out, I went to a Christian men retreat, and it was the best thing that happened to me. That's where I feel like my spiritual awakening happened.
Amen.
And once I started to really tap in from an emotional standpoint to see that and see what the people around me were going through, is when I was like, what am I doing this all for?
Yeah, all this is for them, and you kind of all just made it for yourself.
Right.
You wouldn't even take care of yourself at the time.
Right.
So you were just blindsided by everything else. Then once you went to that retreat, that's when everything changed.
Everything changed.
For me, my turnaround moment was when I saw my brother didn't care about me anymore. Because in my eyes, I thought I was doing everything right.
Right.
Like, I thought I was doing everything right. But I didn't notice the little things that, like, granted, it was miscommunication on both parts. But I didn't miss the little things that I did that was just a knife. Me pushing a knife into him. And it was like, oh, wow. Once we had a conversation, I understood what the whole
What
situation
was actually driving all that?
actually driving all of that, I
Right.
made the switch immediately.
100%.
But most people don't even take that time to put the
They're not
brakes
even
on
aware.
it. Not even aware.
They don't even know
Not even
the
aware.
bloodshed that's happening on their path to success.
That's the biggest thing, bro.
Right.
It's the biggest
And
thing.
once I realized that, man, but once again, it all works together for good because now that I'm out, I walked away with my wife, right? Which now gave birth to my first child, you know, so the things that I desired were still coming to fruition. So like God works everything together for good. And I couldn't be more fortunate.
Yeah.
Walked away with wisdom that I could take to my next ventures.
Yeah.
I walked away with the understanding of how to invest, how to be properly protected, how to actually be well off financially, regardless of whatever path I take from there on.
I'm making big moves now. I love it.
You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
So like for me, all of this works together for good. But at the most important thing about all of this is that I walked away with faith.
Amen.
You get what I'm saying?
Amen.
Which I think a lot of us don't talk about because at the end of the day, I love the podcast. Trust me. Success, learning about business, money, finance, it's one of my favorite things to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, but what is your foundation on? Where are you on? Are you on quicksand or are you on the cornerstone?
Amen.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what's led to my current day success, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't look at it like a finish line or like where I'm going to get to. It's just I'm living my life to be the most fruitful person that I could be in my family life, my business life, everything that I can do, wherever I can be fruitful is where I look to be.
Amen.
Because this is the life right here we're on right now. This is life.
Uh-huh.
This is everything else.
Hey, hey, it's just a small fraction of it.
So
what do you make?
I'm going to devote all of my time and energy to master this part of life.
So then at the rest,
you miss all this. So like that's where my shift came into place because I'm going to miss it all. I got to be present. I got to see the beauty in what I have today. Don't you remember when we were kids? How we would literally just be outside.
In the present, bro.
In
the present.
Everything was
not a care in the world. Not a care in the world. Not a care in the world.
You know, we make jokes, right? When you could have a bunch of toys for kids. You give them a remote and it's like the best toy they ever had. How can they find the peace and happiness to play with a remote? Yet us, we don't have the attention span to even be present in just a simple conversation.
Yo, that's the big thing. That's being present in a conversation. And most people don't take, like, they're still within themselves and their world, and they're chasing that next step that they're not even present right now. Right now. And they don't know the impact that they have. Like, I've seen the impact that I have with my brothers just being there in those conversations, just being there as an ear. But if I was grinding, making these calls, I'm listening to other people but the people that I care about. Right.
It's so funny that you said the word grinding, right? So I just posted a video on my story. I don't know if you saw it, where it says grinding, right? The actual word grinding. It literally means to grind, like where it breaks things down to where it's to just finite, where it's nothing. It's just grinded down. So we're chasing the same image of, obviously being successful, but to what cost, like I said, and literally grinding, like you're grinding something down. So imagine that's literally your lifestyle. You're grinding your life down.
And that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing.
You know what I mean? But hard work, we need hard work.
Yeah.
Hard work is a great equalizer. I'm not going to talk about not doing the hard work, but what is your hard work motivated by? And for me, my mindset, right. So when I went to that Christian retreat, and they said don't call it a retreat, they call it just call it a men's event. It was like a man's event, and they said something there that I love because there was a lot of successful men that were there. I mean, guys that own businesses, multimillionaires. I mean, very successful people. But once again, they all came to that shift where they realized at what cost we want to be successful. Because I realized you can't serve God's people and people in general and not be successful. Like, if you look at business is serving people.
It is.
It's one of the things that, remember I told you earlier, like, I've thought of myself as a boss as a kid. Because you saw the music, you saw the culture. You got to be the boss.
You got to be the boss.
You
got to call the shots. You got to do this. You got to do that. Yeah.
But it has such a terrible terminology because the boss is really the biggest servant in his own company. You're serving your people. Whether it's your employees or your clients. Your customer is your boss.
Yeah, the media kind of gave being a boss, a negative connotation, or your boss
A
as
prideful connotation.
yeah, very prideful, selfish, vindictive.
Right. It's all about
all
me.
those words.
It's
All about me. All about
Right.
me making money, profit margins. It's all
Right.
about this, cutting their losses.
Right.
But it's all about servitude.
It's quite the opposite.
It's all about servitude.
It's actually quite the opposite. And that's kind of where, like, it's funny, I had a Bible study this week with a couple friends, and I said it at their event. It's one of our slowest weeks, and it's a slow time in the market right now. And a lot of people don't know this. I'm in the moving business.
Yeah,
we're gonna get into all that. We're gonna get into that. But it's one of my slower weeks in business in my last 3 years. And funny enough, because of that mindset shift, you know, my heart was actually in, I need to get my guys hours. I need to get my guys hours. My guys need hours because they got bills to pay. They got families to feed. One of my newest guys, he has a new daughter. Well, not my newest guys. One of my best guys has a new daughter, right? And he came to me. He's like, dude, I got to get 40. I got to get 40 hours. And that stuff breaks me. Like, when I say my drive,
that's shifting the intent. Oh man,
I'm a man with a son. I'm a man with kids. I'm a man with bills.
Hey,
this week that guy was just as important to me as my own son mouth's being fed. Yeah. It's how I see it. It's because these people have entrusted me to lead them to their goals. Yeah. They have entrusted me to put them in a position to get better. And I think that's the part that I don't hear enough about when we talk about being successful. How are we putting our people in a position to win? How are we putting our community in a position to win? See, I'm not, once again, this is life. So if I'm going to be here, how much impact am I going to make? That's what I think success is truly, is impact.
And how much impact are you going to make after? After. What are you going to leave? How is that going to still be, how are you going to still impact people through that?
Right.
And this is why I love doing this, because somebody can stumble upon, like myself, when I changed my environment, I stumbled upon one video that was posted years before the person passed, and it impacted me to make a change. And I desire to do the same thing in other people.
That's awesome.
That's it, man.
One of the company I worked for when I was in finance, you know, the broker I worked for, he had a mantra that he believed, like, you know, how back here it says empowering leaders.
Yeah.
Ours was called strength and honor, and the what's the word? The tagline is, what we do in life echoes in eternity.
What we do in life echoes in it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. Lasting imprint. What kind of lasting imprint are you making?
Yeah.
So for me, that's kind of where I know, right? That's one of my favorite quotes.
Man, I know.
That.
I love
Beautiful.
That. I love that.
And that is like, what kind of impact are we going to make? This is making an impact, because what we're doing right now, if we just get one person to hear a message that shifts their mindset for the better, like, that's my end goal ultimately. Mm-hmm. You know, I came on here because I was a young kid that knew nothing about nothing, that was trying to figure a way. I knew I wanted to be successful. I just didn't know what to do, how to do it, how to get there. So every opportunity where I can impart wisdom or knowledge that I have, that I've gained from being in that same situation, I'm going to do it. Each one teach one. I think, especially in our community, we need to learn how to be able to be more conducive with each other, how to connect with each other, to give each other value. Yeah. Because it would bring me so much joy to see you just come to realize your success and find more versions of yourself as you do it, because we're constantly evolving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what my storyline has made me realize, is that we're constantly evolving. That's why growth is so beautiful, but growth is uncomfortable. Having that conversation with that employee that I told you, that new daughter, was like, dude, I need 40, I need 50 hours. It's uncomfortable. But it's necessary.
It's necessary. And that's all part of your process.
Right.
So, man, your process is amazing, man. Your past is amazing. And yeah, go ahead. And I love that you said that, you know, when I said, what was your biggest struggle? You said, you know what, I'm not going to focus on struggle. I'm going to focus on the big lessons that I learned and the impacts and everything that I had. I love that. And, you know, it all led you to becoming the man that you are and running the business that you have right now, where you have the right mindset as far as how can I help them provide for them. Right. For their family and their environment. Right. So tell everybody what it is that you do day in and day out.
Absolutely. So right now, I'm with My Guys moving to Storage, Florida. So we're actually an expansion of the corporation. So that's what it is. It's actually, we're headquartered. Am I in? Yeah, we're good. Right. All right, cool. Yeah, so I'm with My Guys moving to Florida, and we're an expansion corporation down here. We've actually incorporated in Virginia over 33 years.
Yeah.
So the broker that I work for in finance actually bought this company back in 2008, 2010. Really? So a lot of people don't know that. Correct. Once again, loyalty. I learned it from my parents. Amen. You find people that you know, that you see value in, that work with you. work with them.
Yeah.
This is a guy that taught me how to be successful, how to be a business owner, how to actually be an independent thinker. So of course I'm going to stick around where I've gained a lot of value and knowledge and wisdom. So long story short, I left working in finance, started working in sales, which I did really well because a lot of the knowledge and wisdom I gained from finance, I applied it in sales in the moving industry and did well, became a manager, learned how to do the actual business, and started another business doing the exact same thing I was doing as a manager.
Wow.
Right. Was able to build a sales floor where we did really well. And pretty much through that experience, I realized, instead of just being a moving sales office and where I'm just selling a move, I'd rather learn how to actually own the entire process, which is doing the actual move from point A to point B. And that's kind of what shifted my mindset to saying, you know what, I want lasting wealth. Because as a sales office, it's just a bunch of phones, we're closing deals, and we're making a lot of money. That's great. But this is all it is.
So, no interaction. I like interacting with where I'm giving life.
Right.
So
correct.
Getting money has some form of life to it, but sometimes it's more seeing the satisfaction of the person
correct.
moving from point A to point B and the relief that they have.
Right. Because like we said, we got to design our lives based on what makes our soul feel fulfilled. Like making money should not be your end goal. Which you're gonna make money. Like I don't want you not to make money. There's bills to pay. There's things that we got to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, at what cost do we talk about? Like that's the thing that always rings in my head. At what cost do I want to do this? So I realized I could do this and I can do really well doing it because selling is one of my gifts that I feel like God's blessed me with. But I don't want to just sell. You know what I mean? Like you just mentioned, I want to make interact. I want to grow something that I can be proud of, that I can bring my son to and be like, hey, look what's happening without me showing up. Yeah. Because what I was doing required me to show up because I'm managing my guys, managing the calls. I built a great respect in the sales industry because of how fast I can close a deal and how well I can close a deal. A lot of guys, when they consider selling, what they think of selling is just taking an order. Like you call in saying you're looking for this and I give you exactly what you look for and you give me your credit card. Yeah. That's not selling. That's just I can get anybody to do that. That's taking an order. Yeah. What selling is you came in looking to buy something and I convinced you that you should actually get more because you deserve more. Yeah. And you just don't know that it's actually either A, affordable and or B, that it's reasonable. And once you're aware of that, then you'll make that decision to actually pay more because you see the value.
I like that perspective. I'm not gonna lie. I never thought about it in that way to some degree, but knowing that you can get more because it's affordable and it's worth it.
Right. That. Right. It's like the plus one. If you don't get the plus, like you go to, for example, a hotel, they'll upgrade you to a nicer room. It's going to cost you more, but obviously you're going to get either a better view, ocean view, right, or you're going to get the deluxe king suite, not just the king suite. So they obviously add the value, but there's got to be something to tag along with it. So that's why I train my guys is to make them realize everybody can pay more if they can justify the cost. Yeah. If they see the value.
And if you don't believe in it, if you're not in it, it's going to show in the conversation.
100%.
It's going to show.
100%. It's like, one thing I learned to find is that same, my same mentor, he says, convince people are convincing. You see, a lot of times we think we have to convince people just out of just a plain air, just like I got to convince you. Yeah. No. When you're convinced, then you can convince people. Yeah. But you just mentioned, you have to be convinced yourself in what you're selling or what you're actually offering so that when you're talking to people, you're not selling it from a place of weakness because you feel like you got to do this to make money. You're saying it because you truly believe in your product or service that you're offering. Yeah. And once you can portray what you believe in, now you're transferring that belief. It's the same way that we went over Christians with faith. Because once you have that faith and you're convinced in that your Lord is your Savior, then you can naturally talk to somebody and convince them as well that He should be your Lord and Savior because you're convinced.
And you've seen what it done for you. So how much more do you want it done for that next person?
Correct.
Exactly.
And that's when you start to realize all this stuff's intertwined.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And all of that was in I love that, man.
Right.
I love that.
Right.
So tell me, how would people connect with you and your team and everything?
Absolutely. So going back to the moving, so we're in the moving business. So we do both local and long distance. So we service, which is what I left with the sales office, started actually servicing my clients from point A to point B. So if you move here locally, we can move you. And then if you're moving long distance, we can move you anywhere in the country. And the beauty about that is when it comes to the service, the van line model and the actual independent model, which is what we do, is what sets us apart.
Really?
Correct. Because in the industry, there's a lot of big names, which I'm not going to say out there, but everybody knows them, right? And these van lines, what it is they're just glorified brokers. Like a broker when you're brokering a deal. So reality is, let's say, for example, you're moving from here to Texas, right? So if you go with the van line model, what it is this umbrella, which is the van line, is going to hire an agent. Let's say I'm an agent, a guy that owns a truck, right? Now, I, as the agent, I'm going to get a call from the van line and say, hey, I got a job. I'm moving Olivier from here to Texas.
Yeah.
And he has about 5,000 pounds worth of stuff. Can you pick up this job and deliver? And I'm only going to give you about 3,200, but the van line charged you about 65.
Wow.
But they're leaving the agent $3,200 to do the move. So the agent decides, I can because I have this load already on my truck, and I'm heading over to Phoenix. So I can drop off Olivier in between. But here's what's going to happen. This agent, myself, I don't only work with this one van line. I can also work with other local companies. So they might have jobs for me as well. So I'll still take you as my client. But if I get a call from somebody else where either A, they're willing to pay more and they take up more space, or B, it can fit on my truck, but I'm going to make your move later because it's going to be sooner, then I'll do it. So you're at the helm of whatever the agent deals with when the agents do the move.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So either you're going to be on the back burner because a bigger job came on the schedule, or you're going to be on the back burner because they found another job that's going to happen in between that they can do.
That they can just kind of sandwich in together.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you're looking at slower delivery times. You're looking at either stuff going missing. Funny enough, I just hired a sales guy, and him and his buddy moved from Houston, and he went to Connecticut, and his friend went to Illinois. And the funny story with that is they knew the van line system, and they said, we'll do it together because we'll take up one truck. So they did. When they got to their places, they both had opposite bed sets in their homes. So he had his buddy's bed set in his home, and the other guy had his bed set.
Wow.
Right.
So it's not no attention to
detail because remember, they're dealing with so many clients, so many pickups. It's easier things for them to go missing. And they're on a time crunch. Yeah. Because they got to get to the next load because that's how it works. You got to get to the next load.
So they're not even paying attention to any of that.
Right. And it gets even crazier because sometimes there might be another company that they can't finish the trip. Let's say they had to start from Florida and had to get to Cali, but they have so much jobs out east on the East Coast that instead of them going all the way to Cali, they'll drop it off at a warehouse in Texas that they know a buddy, sell him the move, take a percentage, and leave New York.
Really? Oh yeah, straight to New York because it's not like these other guys dropping it off at these other warehouses. Correct. Or mixing it up.
So our crew that you see in Florida is the same crew you're going to see that drops you off in New York. So now our delivery time is faster. No transfers, no additional people on the truck, all peace of mind, which you can't put a price on. Because think about it. If you have an opposite bed set in your house and your bed set at someone else's house in Illinois, is a moving company paying for it?
Hell no.
No, now you got to pay for another move. And that's what he had to do. He had to pay for another move. So now what was a cheaper move, you just paid my prices. Actually, you paid less. Yeah. So that's the reality of making sure people understand the value, because once you understand the value, it's a no-brainer. And to be honest, the pricing for moving, it's justified. Cost of fuel, the labor, the actual facts that we're using brand new trucks. So our services are quite justified once you think about the stress that we're taking out the picture. That's dope. Because as a real estate agent, to get a client to the closing table,
it's a journey, man.
Is it not a journey?
Yeah, and they're still dealing with those stuff afterwards. So imagine not having a solid move
right after
you.
Now,
and then having to spend double the money that you had to already spend buying the house.
Right.
Yeah.
And then think about this. This is one thing I've been trying to stress to realtors is now they had a terrible moving experience after you just got them to the finish line. You finally got them closed. They have a terrible moving experience that is worth talking about. What would you rather them talk about? How the move went really, really well because of my referral realtor that actually gave me a great experience already getting to the closing table? Or, yeah, he got me to the closing table, but let me tell you about this mover that did this, and this. Yeah. And that's what's happening. And I try to stress realtors to get them to realize, this is the industry, but you don't know that, and that's okay. Yeah. I'm here to educate you. So I've been on a really aggressive run, and especially this year when I go out and present, to make people understand what we just talked about. Because here's the actual nature of the beast. See, everybody, because they don't know a trusted contact for moving, because we only do it 3 or 4 times in our lifetime, they go on Google and they research movers.
The Yelp or the sponsored ones that people pay to be at the top and they're not even the best.
Exactly. Yeah. So now people that are inexperienced go online and trust a platform that's devoted to who spends more money. I was in the industry. Yeah. These guys that don't have your best interests at heart, if they spend any money, it's only going to be on marketing because of how easy it is to get a client for moving. Yeah. So they spend top dollar in marketing. They land on the top of the page. And that's how they land a lot of these clients, because they're looking at just the price. And once again, price is only an issue in the absence of value.
Yeah. So people see the value within your company, within your business, and everything. What's the form of contact so they can get connected to that value?
Absolutely. So when you say contacts, you're
Like phone number, email, like how would they reach out?
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, okay, got it.
Like,
Oh, so you want me to plug?
Yeah, they're saying all these things, but if they don't know how to call you, it's like, what is it for, man?
Yeah, no doubt. So it's My Guys Moving. Our location is My Guys Moving, Florida. Best way to contact us is our main line, 954-437-9669.
Mhm.
You can get our email, info@myguysmovingfl.com, or you can go on Instagram and follow us at My Guys Moving FL, or you can follow us on Facebook, My Guys Moving South Florida.
Amen.
All right. And then my page, Manny the Mover, if it makes it easier to follow me as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate that.
You left a lot of good gems today. We talked about a lot of amazing stuff. So at the end of the day, my name is Olivier. We're helping you do the do to do life well. Peace.